Oh, setting up the meeting. Yeah, I think so. You want to go over there and tell me what to do? Should be. Is it right here? Okay. I have to pull it up here so I can actually see it. But it's on. Okay. Is it in the right spot? I can't see it yet. Okay. Here we go. That's muted. Okay. It's on delay. So just a second. Let me make sure this is cool. Is it all the way back to the edge? Yeah. I think it's fine. Will you tilt the this way towards me? Just a little. More. Wait for it to catch up. Yeah, I know it takes a minute. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, cool. All right, we're live. And we are ready to go. I'm just gonna wait a second. Who all is excited to talk about corn? Actually, it's too far now. I'll change it. We'll have my head not cut off in 2 seconds. This way? Yeah, go back. That should be fine. But just hold on. So wait for it to catch you. I need to mute that. There we go. Because I can't hear myself like that. Okay. Okay. It's still, my head is still cut off. But I don't know if it has caught up. That's good. It's like right at the top of my head. But you can see this really well. And that's really good too. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you for our transition here as we navigate the lag in our camera and the ability to not cut my head off in the camera. Okay, so happy Tuesday. It is Quarantine Kitchen episode 6. Today I'm going to be talking all about fresh corn because you go to any grocery store right now, it is super on sale and super in season. I love how cheap it is during the summertime when it's really fresh. I got 10 ears of corn for $2, excuse me, $4, because it's 5 ears for $1, which is a fantastic deal. It's a good opportunity to stock up while it's really cheap and fresh, and you can use up as much as you would like to. And then you can store it away for a later date. So you can cut it up into small cobs or take the kernels off of the cob, and you can blanch that and freeze it to save it for another day when you're looking for the sweet flavor of fresh corn. So today I'm going to show you how I like to take the husk off of the actual corn, and then a really cool trick on taking the kernels off of the corn. Then I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can use the corn. One's a pretty traditional way, but we put a really good spin on it. And another one, I would say you could call it traditional as well, but it is quintessential summertime. So here we go, let's get started. So when it comes to our fresh corn, I like to choose ones that have a long stalk on it, and that helps to give you a really good handle when you're getting ready to take the actual husk off. It does not require a long stalk on the ends. The furry end is going to be your top, and then the other end is going to be where your stalk is. And you can feel it inside of the husk. You can feel where the corn starts and the stalk starts. So what I like to do is I like to grab it by the stem here and hold it right at the edge of where the corn starts. And then I'm going to break it like that. So you've got a really good chunk of the husk in your hand, and then you can pull off the external layers like that. Most of you probably know how to do this, but I'm going to go over it anyway. Okay, so we got the bulk of it off the top. So the next step you're going to do is you're going to sort of take the tip here and sort of divide the silk and the rest of the husk between your two hands. So I like to pull it off a little bit like this and get it separated. So you've got two handles to pull the husk and the silk off with. So sometimes this is messy and the silk won't come off and it goes everywhere, and sometimes it's not. This is looking pretty clean so far. So all you do is pull it off. I just did one side there. Then I'm going to pull off the other side. And then you're going to grab it with one hand and just twist it off the bottom. There we go. That was a pretty clean removal, I would say. So then you're left with a good bit of mess here. Here we go. Here we go. Have my trash can on hand there. So the next thing that you want to do is decide how you're going to use it. So if you wanted to keep it whole and have corn on the cob, you can cook this in the microwave, you can grill this, you can boil it, you can steam it. You have a lot of different options for cooking the whole cob. Either in like 3 sections, you can cut it into small cobs if you want to do that. But today I'm going to show you how to take the kernels off using a really cool kitchen hack that I swear by. So you can start with a bundt pan, like a bundt cake pan where you have the open circle in the center. Or you can use a big bowl, and you can use a smaller bowl that fits inside of it along the bottom edge. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the smaller bowl with the open side face down into the big bowl. So you're kind of replicating what the bundt pan looks like. You've got this open section around the small bowl, and then you've got this circle right in the middle of the other bowl where your corn is going to sit and be stabled. So what I'm going to do is use this section right here to hold my corn while I cut the kernels off. And then the larger bowl is going to catch all the kernels, and then you have less of a mess to clean up. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. I'm on my tippy toes here to make sure I'm in the camera. There. So often you will have a little bit of stock left, and I use that as leverage so I can hold on to it really well. There we go. So you just cut the kernels off. And then all of your kernels are caught in your larger bowl. I am kind of spraying some everywhere. That's just going to happen. That comes with the process. Go. All right. One more side. All right, so that is nice and clean. There's our cob. So I'm going to hang on to this cob with no kernels on it and show you something you can do with it in just a little bit. This is your really quick and easy way to remove all the kernels from your corn and save you some cleanup. So I really like this. I use this all the time when I have fresh corn on hand. So I need to go ahead and do my second ear of corn because I'm going to use it in my first recipe. There we go. So this is not slow-mo style this time. I'm just gonna run through this real quick. There we go. This guy doesn't look so good on the top. And all my silk stuck to it. So I had a really good one and a not so good one, and that's just how it goes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off this tip top because it looks a little brown. we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and cut off these kernels for my recipe. There are special gadgets that you can buy to take the kernels off of the corn, but there's no reason to do that when you can use what you already have on hand. Perfect. Okay, corn is off the cob. All right, so I'm going to remove my small bowl and I'm going to use this large bowl to hold my salsa that I'm going to put together for you. Salsa is a beautiful way to incorporate fresh corn. It's going to give you the really sweet and crunchy, earthy flavor, as well as just tie into all of the other ingredients. So my recipe, it just includes everything that comes in a basic salsa. So when it comes to you and your preferences, you can cut your tomatoes as small or as large as you would like for them to be. For me, I like to remove the juice inside of the tomato, so my salsa isn't really soupy and really wet. Some people like for their tomatoes to be almost pureed, like restaurant style salsa. So you could use a blender for that. Technically, you could use a blender to make this salsa. It won't be chunky if you do that. So you will have chunks of corn and black beans, which is personally my favorite part about this salsa. So lots of opportunity to make this the way that you like it to be. So I've got 5 of those small tomatoes that come on the vine from the grocery store. So I've got my tomatoes. Let's go. I've got about half of an onion. You can add more or less depending on your preference for onions. This is just a white onion. This is 1 can of black beans. I drained the liquid off of the beans that is canned, that comes in the can. And then I rinse off the juice from it with fresh water. So what that does is it reduces the amount of salt that you're going to get from the black beans. Also, you don't want the canned liquid in your salsa. So you're going to want to drain them off either way. So drain and rinse black beans. I've got garlic and jalapeno. So the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. I use 3 because that's what I really like. And then a jalapeno. So just depending on your preference for spicy, you can decide whether you want to keep the seeds or not keep the seeds. And that is up to you. I don't ever keep the seeds because I want heat, but I don't want to be like intolerable. Of course, jalapenos are not the spiciest peppers, but I know some people that would laugh at the spice of a jalapeno. So to each their own. So here we go. Garlic and jalapeno. And then the star of the show is cilantro. So that really is going to tie everything together. So I know that not everyone is a fan of cilantro, and that is for genetic reasons. So if you don't like cilantro, leave it out. Or if you would like to try another type of fresh herb, you can do that. There isn't really anything that substitutes the flavor of cilantro, but if you wanted to use parsley, your salsa could be more Mediterranean instead of like a Latino flair. So that is up to you, and you can substitute what you would like here. So my cilantro. I personally, when I use cilantro, I use the stems and the leaves. Some people, or even like fancy restaurants, will only use the leaves and they'll toss the stems. The stems have the same amount of flavor, if not more, than the leaves. So why toss your money when you can use all of it? Like, I would never do that. And last but not least is lime juice. So this is the juice of 1 lime. I would say to start with 1 and then decide if you need more based on how well everything mixes together. And then you can add more. Or if you're not a huge fan of sour flavors, I would start with less. and half of a lime, and then go from there. If you don't have lime juice, you could use lemon juice. It's a different flavor, but it works. You could also use like apple cider vinegar if you wanted to do that to make your salsa. Actually, if you did like the apple cider vinegar and then added, use parsley instead of cilantro, I feel like that would be really tasty. All right, look at this beautiful combo of tomatoes and corn and black beans. This is going to be delicious on cooked meats like grilled chicken or something like that. You can eat it with tortilla chips. You can put it on top of your nachos. Let me give it just a little sprinkle of salt to tie it all together. Just a little. There we go. You can use different kinds of beans. You can use pinto beans or kidney beans, whatever type you have on hand or that you like the most. This is not a hard, fast rule for what kind of beans you use. The same thing goes for the measurements. If you don't like beans as much, you could add just a little bit of beans. But here, I almost have equal parts corn and tomatoes, and I am totally fine with that because this corn is super fresh and delicious, and it's going to make delicious snack for the rest of the week. Like I've said in the past, when you're eating a salad that doesn't have any fat in it, like this recipe, this salsa, it's a good idea to eat it with something that does contain fat. So if you're eating it on top of a grilled meat, you're going to get some fat from your meat, and that's going to help you absorb all of the nutrients that are in the salad. So if you're eating it with chips, like you would generally do for salsa, that's going to be a good way for you to get some fat to absorb all of those fantastic nutrients. So this is our fresh tomato salsa recipe with corn and black beans added to it. So that is number one. Our second recipe is, I just love this recipe so much, and it's so fitting for us who have grown up in the South and maybe always grew up with creamed corn. So I'm making creamed corn today, but I am not going to make it with any cream. Technically, no animal ingredients. This is going to be a vegan creamed corn, and not on purpose. The purpose of it is to reduce the amount of saturated fat that you would generally use to make this dish. So there is one key step that is required to cream your corn without using cream, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let me just shift my stuff over. All right, here we go. So I already have some corn that I have creamed, and it looks like the finished product. It looks exactly like what creamed corn would look like coming out of a can, or if your grandma made it. This is not your grandma's recipe, though, so keep that in mind. I love this recipe because it's very easy to make. It doesn't require any special ingredients. It requires a grater. We're going to use our cheese grater to grate the corn off of the cob. And what that does is it's going to make a fine texture on the corn, like it's been cooked down a while. And it's also going to extract the corn milk. So that's a technical term. It's called corn milk. So it's the white juice that comes from the cob of the corn whenever if you cut it too far, or if you bite too far into the cob, you're going to get that white liquid. So that's what this extra liquid is in this bowl of corn. So it's imperative that you get down to the corn milk to make it really creamy, to have your non-dairy milk, if you will. So I need to have a second bowl that I displayed. Big bowl or little bowl? Big bowl, it's this size. I have the second one, unless this is the one that I used. It's going to be down here at the bottom. 1 second. Oh, also, I should add that it's helpful if you use plastic wrap to cover the opposite 3 sides. Perfect. Thank you. Of the grater. whenever you're doing this. So you're going to use the side with the largest holes, and then you can just take a piece of plastic wrap and cover the other 3 sides. And that's going to help you to keep all of the corn milk. So, you know, this is a little bit messy because it does kind of splatter a little bit as you do it. But it's totally worth it for the final product. It's so delicious. Okay, so you've got a couple ways that you can grate your corn here. So do we have a good angle here? Here, let me switch this. There we go. Okay. You can cut your corn cob in half before you start to grate it, or you can cut it as you go along with the grating. I just cut it as I go along. You can go up and down in this direction, but it doesn't work quite as well. So I recommend folding it sideways and going down like this. And so you will feel it sort of pushing back at you whenever you get down to the actual cob, and then you'll turn it and you're just going to grate it all the corn cobs off. So it's going to splash a little bit. I don't know if you'll see that, but it splashes. So here we go. There we go. Okay, so that is one side of the corn cob. I'm just going to continue along. To like just kind of go around it one more time to make sure I'm getting as much of the juice out as I can. You want this guy to be used up all the way. So that's pretty deep and all taken care of. Cool. So now I'm just going to cut this piece off. Go. And then I'm going to continue. So this recipe, it uses 4 ears of corn. So you're going to grate your 4 ears of corn. As you're going through this grating process, it's helpful to stop occasionally and kind of clear out the holes and use a spatula to scoop everything out and make sure that it's actually going into the bowl and not hanging out inside of the grater. That's going to make it just a little bit faster. It's not going to start coming out of the holes. We're almost there. This is an arm workout. There, okay, that's a good clean piece. I'm gonna get this last little nub at the end. So when you get to the end, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're being real careful as to not get your fingers. The corn cob is pretty high up enough of the grater where your fingers are in immediate danger, but there's still always some danger involved when it comes to using a grater. We're done. Okay, so I'm gonna hold on to these like I mentioned a second ago. This is my bowl of cobs. So you can see the difference in cutting it off the cob versus grating it off the cob, and how much of the liquid that you're getting out of it. So that's just something to consider. Okay, so you can see how much liquid is here just from one corn cob. So I'm gonna grab my spatula so I can make sure I get everything out of here. I'm just gonna scrape it down all the sides, make sure I've gotten all my corn out. I'm also gonna go across the top of the grater to get all that off. All right. There we go. So that's my 1 ear of corn, and you can see how juicy that is just from grating. Okay, so this is 3, here's 4. And this, to pull this all together, it's going to take just a few minutes of cook time. So I'm going to start with a couple tablespoons of olive oil in my pan. You don't have to use olive oil, but olive oil is my oil of choice. There we go. So I'm going to put it over a medium heat. I don't want it to be too hot. And as soon as it's hot, I'm going to add some onion. So you can use as much or as much as you like for the amount of onions. That's your preference. It's going to add some savory flavor to the corn, which is not the same as butter or milk, but it's still going to add to that flavor. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my onion. My recipe says 3 tablespoons. I cut a quarter of an onion, and instead of like wasting some of it, I'm just going to use all of it. If you want it to be a similar texture or the same texture as your corn, you can also grate the onion with your cheese grater. And it will be the same texture, and it will be hidden from anyone who is anti-onion. Using a grater on your onion is also really good for adding it to things like burgers, or our salmon burger recipe where we use canned salmon to make something similar to a salmon patty or salmon croquette. But the grated onion takes away from making the burger fall apart because it's too chunky. All right. So as soon as this is hot, there we go. I just bumped it up to high so I can get it hot here and you're not sitting here waiting for it to be super hot. Okay, there we go. The sizzle I was looking for. So you just want to cook your onion enough until it starts to be opaque or clear, just a couple of minutes. If your onion browns, that's fine. That's not going to take away from the dish. It's actually going to add a little bit of flavor. It does not smell delicious. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit now that it has gotten hot all the way. Okay, I'm going to give that a second to cook. So what you can do with all of your corn pop. So you can make corn stock, and what you can do is you can take your used corn cobs and you can boil them in milk, and that is going to secrete the rest of the flavor out of the corn cob. And then you can use that corn flavored milk in any dish where you would like to boost the corn flavor. So we have a recipe for corn chowder, and our corn chowder is made with yellow split peas. So the yellow split peas are going to break down and make it really nice and thick. And then the corn and the potatoes are going to make it a little chunky. But that recipe calls for vegetable stock to cook your lentils. So I was thinking, I'm actually going to try this later. It's a little too hot for corn chowder right now, so I didn't want to make that, but I am sharing the recipe with you in the resource folder. So what you can do is you can substitute your corn stock for the vegetable stock, and you can cook your split peas in that, and then that's going to just give you even more corn flavor. What you can also do is if you like to boil your corn, the whole corn on the cob before you eat it, you can boil them in milk, and you can use that milk in a similar way. It's not going to be as fully flavorful as if you were to use the cobs alone with no kernels on them, but it's still a good way to get some flavor in your corn and also get some flavor in your milk, and then you can reuse the milk for something else. So that's a really good idea. Okay, so my onions are looking pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and add my corn. So this is my 4 ears of corn. There we go. It just looks like a finished product after you grate it. There we go. We'll stir that in there. This really only takes a couple minutes after you've got your corn in. All you want to do is bring it to a bubble so you don't have the raw corn taste, which is absolutely delicious. It's just not what you're looking for in a cream corn dish. That corn is usually cooked. So we're just going to bring it up to a bubble. And then once it's bubbling, it's done. There we go. So for your seasonings for this cream corn, you can use whatever you like. If you want to add some interesting things, you can totally do that. You could just add a little bit of salt, which is what I'm going to do because I want to highlight the flavor of the corn itself. I was thinking about it as I was prepping for this video. This would be delicious with some grated cheese on top, like the Mexican street corn. That would be a really good way to serve this as a side dish with the little cheese on top. That is, of course, if you're not completely skipping out on dairy. The cheese would not be a good option if you are. But the reason why we skipped out on the dairy was to make it more healthy. Because of the fat content, I should clarify that. Cool. All right, here we go. I'm gonna let that sit and let it come up to a boil. I have some chopped cilantro because I already had it available after using it for the salsa. So I'm just going to sprinkle the top of it with some cilantro, which will be really nice and fresh. And that will be the way that we will eat it this time around, with a little fresh cilantro on top. It would also be really good with some other fresh herbs like basil or oregano or thyme. All of those would be really good. But if you're trying to keep it Southern traditional, sorry, it doesn't have any butter or cream, but just a little bit of salt. And for those of you who really like black pepper, that's totally a good option too. Over here, I've got my corn cobs boiling in milk, and I'm going to be letting that milk cool down. I'm actually just going to freeze it for a day where I feel like I want something that's really hearty and really warm to use that corn stock and make some really flavorful stuff. You know, there are some ice cream places that serve corn flavored ice cream. That would be fantastic. Could use that milk. Tastes like peanut butter, it tastes like popcorn ice cream. Yeah, it does. So it could be like sweet corn, or you could add a little salt to it and make it be like salty corn, like popcorn. That'd be delicious. All right. That smells delicious. This is kind of off topic, but this, the corn kind of reminds me of what a squash casserole looks like. Because the squash like really cooks down to basically mush with like the breadcrumbs on top of it. That's what this reminds me of. Okay, I'm gonna give that a second. I'm also gonna just give these corns over here in the milk a little flip. I ended up with 1 ear of white corn, and it wasn't marketed as yellow or white corn, but one of them ended up being white. Fun fact, white corn isn't technically any sweeter than yellow corn. It's just the genetics that make the color different. So that's fun to know. And also another fun fact, corn is, of course, it's a vegetable. It falls into the vegetable category, but it's a starchy vegetable. It does have a decent amount of carbohydrates per serving, but it also has a lot of fiber. So we're looking at insoluble fiber. And I'm not going to go into too many details about that, but your body doesn't fully digest the majority of the corn. So you're really getting a good source of fiber that's helping to keep your digestive system moving and clean. So corn is good with fiber. So as with everything that has a lot of carbs, just eat it in moderation. That's all I have to say. You can eat corn. It is not bad. It is starchy. It just doesn't fall into the non-starchy category of vegetables. So Non-starchy is anything but corn, peas, and potatoes. So anything that's green and leafy or extra fibrous like celery, tomatoes, all of your broccoli, and your squash and zucchini, all of that is going to be considered non-starchy. And that's going to have a lot less carbs. So if you're paying attention to carbs, thanks for listening to my talk on carbs. Cool. Okay, so this looks amazing. Here is my corn. It's nice and cooked. It's still juicy. I don't want to cook it too much where it doesn't have some of the juice and it dries out. I want it to keep the juice. I don't want it all to boil off. So we're not trying to reduce it. We're just trying to heat it through. And I'm gonna call this done. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna shift and grab my serving bowl. Add some. This would make a beautiful side dish. I would also serve this like underneath whatever meat you're preparing, and the corn's gonna like just soak up all of the juices that come from that main part of your dish, and it's gonna be delicious. That looks so good. All right, here's a little sprinkle of cilantro. We'll top it off. Beautiful. I'm excited about that. Okay, so you have lots of different options to prepare fresh corn. You can eat it on the cob, you can take it off the cob in kernels and eat the kernels raw, like we did in our salsa today. You can also add that to chicken salad or tuna salad or egg salad for a really fresh crunch that's going to mix up your just traditional ways of eating things. You can make traditional cream corn. You can also try ours that doesn't have any milk. You can reuse your cobs and make a corn stock and use that for later. Keep it in the freezer. I would also like to add, when you make your corn stock, you don't have to use fresh milk. So here at the food bank, we go through a lot of shelf-stable milk as well as dry milk powder. So if you're looking for a way to use dry milk powder that is outside of just drinking it or baking with it, because that's a common use, you can reconstitute it and then boil your corn cob in it. So it's not going to taste like it's a little bit sweeter flavor whenever it comes from dry form. So when you add the corn cobs to it, that would be so good. That would be so, I'm looking at Joy. Looking at Joy over here, like that would be so delicious. Actually, that would be the perfect use for making ice cream. It doesn't have a lot of fat. If you made ice cream from dry milk powder.
We'll have to make this recipe with on a demo sometime. The dry milk will be so good.
Yes, that will happen. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. Okay, so well, that is all that I wanted to share with you today. I hope you all go run to the grocery store and get the really, really great valued fresh corn right now and stock up and put some in the freezer, make some salsa, make some cream corn, and whatever heart desires. Or just eat it straight off the top, because we all know that that's delicious. We appreciate your support in tuning in with us on our bi-weekly series. I'm going to update that moving forward, we are going to schedule our live every first and third Tuesday of every month. So some months have more Tuesdays in them. So instead of kind of getting our dates off, we're just going to go first and third Tuesday of each month. So we'll be back in 2 weeks for our next episode. So we have a corn. Yes, we do. So As usual, I have put a link to our nutrition resource folder that we share with all of our partner pantries. And in that folder, you're going to find my talking points from this demonstration, as well as one of our fresh produce cards that is specifically written for corn. So you're going to find the cream corn recipe on the back of that corn produce card, as well as some step photos to show you how to take the husk off, and then as well as cut the kernels off of the cob using our double bowl method. And then there's going to be some more information on that about how you can grill it or boil it or steam it or eat it raw. All of that is included, including how to store it. So go on over there. The link is in our caption here today. And let us know if you learned anything new, if you just got some really good ideas from our demo today, or you just like to tune in. We really appreciate you guys watching, and we hope you're staying healthy out there and doing your proper social distancing and wearing a mask whenever you're around a large group of people, because we're doing that for our friends, not just for ourselves. Okay, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Actually, I didn't even ask if we had any questions. Do we have any questions? From here, it doesn't look like it. Fantastic.
Share, but it doesn't look like we have any questions. Cool. Deborah says that looks delicious. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thanks, Deborah.
Let's see. We have Jessica Torado says that's my favorite vegetable, and it's so delicious.
Hi, Jess. I love you.
Shane Rayburn says I love this kind of outreach.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your feedback on that.
We have Rick Weir chiming in saying he's getting hungry. We planned this around lunchtime on purpose.
Of course we did, Rick.
Brett Thomas, Elliot tuning in, Lan's tuning in,
Nice.
Sharon Dixon, Lindsay Wood, Allison Young.
Awesome.
And Althea and Veronica. So thank you so much for everybody who tuned in.
Absolutely, to our food bankers who were able to tune in, as well as our community members. So thanks for your continued support, and we will see you in 2 weeks on Tuesday at 11 a.m. All right, guys. Thanks.